Hi, this is Corey, and I thought that I would try a different platform. I also write a blog on my website, and sometimes people love to read what I'm writing, but I thought that we would try something new. We'd try a new platform and try podcasts. So if you have questions as a parent, if you're working with your kids and you're kind of wondering, how can I become a better parent? How can I help my child dealing with something difficult? Please feel free to email me and give me some ideas of some things that you would like to hear about, as I would love to offer some future podcasts in addressing specific issues and questions that you have. Today, I thought I would talk about the importance of vulnerability and connection in parenting. I have a lot of parents that come and see me and bring their child, whether they're a small child or whether they're a teenager, and say, how can I help my child behave better? Or they're starting to make some risky decisions and I'm trying to be a better parent too. How do I help my kid better their relationship with me and yet get them to obey and make good choices? And that's a really complicated question, and I think it's really important for us to address, because I think as parents we will all face this dilemma of, for a long time my kids have listened to everything that I've said. They've cleaned their room when I ask them to. They load the dishes and they're responsible and they do all the right things, and then there's something about reaching a certain age where they suddenly challenge everything I'm asking them to do, and all of a sudden they're screaming or slamming doors or stomping down the hallway or up the stairs, and what happened to my kid? And so it's a huge challenge as a parent to figure out, when should I be the authoritative parent and expect my child to obey me, and at the same time, how do I connect with them on a human level and build a relationship with them? And parenting, I believe, involves both. And as a child becomes a tween and becomes a teenager, all the roles are shifting. The family system that once was is being challenged by the family changing, or this subsystem. This child or children are coming of age where they want to be more independent and they want to try new things and be responsible for more, and that totally changes the system. It totally changes the way the family has been functioning up until that point. And so the family system has a choice. We can either adjust to that transition, or we can stay rigid in the way that we've been functioning and hope that the child just realigns themselves. Well, anytime life or an event changes something that's going on within the family system, it's time for the family system to adjust a little bit. So what you have here is you have a child who, as a tween or teen, is starting to want to be treated like an adult, which may sound great for those of us who've been waiting for our children to become more responsible. It brings a whole other set of complicated situations. And so what the kid is actually saying is, give me more responsibility, treat me like an adult, but still love me like a child. And that's hard to know when to do what. So in other words, we're entering into a new stage of parenting where we are at times talking to that child and holding them accountable to communicate and teaching them how to communicate on an adult level, as adults to an adult, right? Because once our child grows up and actually does become an adult and leaves home, even though we will always be parent to child in our relationship roles, they are adults now. And so there are times when we're going to have complicated or difficult discussions on an adult to adult level where there's mutual respect. And so during those tween and teen years, we're starting to teach that kind of conversation and how it happens. So there are times that teen is kind of testing our boundaries and saying, hey, I want to be talked to and treated like an adult right now. Can we set aside the parent to child thing that we normally do? And so during these complicated conversations, it's, how do I maintain my role as the parent, understanding that there are certain rules and limits that I have within my home, or the rules that we relate with, that I'm always your parent, I'm always your mom. And so there are definite respectful lines for us to keep, and there are definitely rules in how we talk to each other, that I will always be that mom. But for right now, we're going to talk on an adult to adult level, which means I can hear mistakes that I have done wrong, and I want to teach you to be able to talk about the mistakes that you've made and what you've done wrong so that we can feel that tension and feel that disconnect. And then I can teach you as mom or dad how to re-engage and reconnect and apologize if there needs to be apologies made or connections made, and then experience that level of forgiveness, reconnect on a much deeper level, and that's how adults to adults talk. So as I outline that process, you can hear how important vulnerability and connection is. If we as parents are not showing that we are human, that we make mistakes, that we have some level of suffering in our life, then there's never an opportunity for us to be vulnerable and connect with them. So being vulnerable and showing that I am imperfect, that I make mistakes, that I may have talked to you in a way that made you feel disrespected, and I need to know that and own that, so that we in an adult to adult conversation, I can own that and show you that that's an important part of communication between us and building that relationship, is me being vulnerable and showing that I know what forgiveness is because I've had to experience it in my own life, and I've had to need it in my own life. I've had to give it in my own life to maintain the connections that I have with other people. And so I have to be able to show you that vulnerability is important. I can show you that I'm imperfect, so that you can also have that model of showing me that you're imperfect. And in that imperfection, we can connect on a very human level, understand each other, understand where each other's coming from, and form that connection as a human to human, and hopefully one day as an adult to an adult. And in that humanness, in that forgiveness for each other, we experience that connection. And that connection only leads to further respect that they have for us as parents, so that they can go back to that role of, I'm your child, you're my parent, and I respect you, and I understand you as a human, and I understand your story, and you've shared it with me on a very vulnerable level. And so because of that, I can understand that I have hope in being vulnerable and connecting in some of those difficult moments. And I have you as a model for that. So our role as parents is not just to be the authoritative person that tells them the do's and the don'ts and how to, and whether or not you obeyed and did your chores. Our role is just as important to show the vulnerability and the connection that is necessary for us to maintain and build and establish very healthy, secure relationships. Connections with other people are where we experience joy. It's where we experience love and compassion that we need, and that we also need opportunities to give. And that needs to be playing out in our relationships with each other, within our homes, and within the varying roles and subsystems that we have, parent to child, or spouse to spouse, or as extended family members as well, with in-laws, with brothers, with sisters, that in various capacities. So anyways, I hope that made some sense to you. I hope that you will be challenged to extend forgiveness today where you feel like you need to give it, to ask for forgiveness in relationships that may be overdue for that, and that it will give you the opportunity to connect with your child on some level today by not just asking how they're doing, but maybe sharing how you're doing with them, or how you're doing in your life in general, and just being vulnerable and sharing your own imperfection on an appropriate level, so that they can see your humanness and see that connection and vulnerability is important in your home and in your family. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to hear from you soon on any ideas that you would like for me to cover, or questions that you may have that you may be struggling with, that you may feel like other people might be struggling with as well and might benefit from us talking about it together. So thanks so much, and I hope you have a great day.